Hi everyone, Salesforce integration training day 22. Let's see what are we going to learn today. We'll review the use case, one of the use case. We will see what is the use case and we will implement a Salesforce to version integration flow. And how can we sign up the veriPhone account? And what are the steps to implement the integration? What are the referral documents? This is our today's agenda. Now let's see the use case. The use case is in the Salesforce. In Salesforce, we have an account object. We have account object. So whenever I create an account, while creating the account, phone number is mandatory. Phone number is mandatory. I have to enter the account name and the phone number. So whenever we create a with the phone number by entering the phone number. Now click on a save button. Once we click on a save button, so we are clicking on a save button on a standard account page. As soon as on the account page save button is, when the user click on a save button, immediately we are going to trigger we have to implement either trigger or a flow on the account. So whether it is a trigger or flow, it will fire this either trigger or a flow. When it fires, it is going to call the API. So the API name is the third party system is veriPhone. The third party system is veriPhone. What it does is basically it is going to cross verify whether the phone number entered valid or not. This is going to verify whether the valid phone number is entered or not. Whether it is a valid phone number or not. So it is going to veriPhone is a third party system. I'll show you that. So veriPhone is third party system. It is going to cross verify what are the phone number that we have entered on the account object. Is that the valid phone number or not? So what are the responses there? We will get the response whether it is a kind of a valid or a not valid. So for example, so this is the veriPhone third party system. veriPhone third party system. Now when you click on some number here, so I'm entering some number here. So if I click on this, so this is whether it is a valid number or not. Whether it is a valid number or not, it is going to give us the information. Now here, let's say, now this is the some number I'm entering here. So whether it is valid or not, it says it's not valid. It's not valid. So nobody has this number. Now let me change to something else. Now this is also not valid. This is also not valid. Now, for example, if I enter the other number, so what are the numbers are there? It is going to give us the information. If it is a valid number, it is going to give us the valid equal to true. If it is a valid number, it is going to give us the valid number. If it is a not valid number, it will tell that this is Arab Emirates and it's not a valid number. It's not valid number. So this is the veriPhone third party system. So from the trigger or from the flow, from the account trigger or from the account flow, we can call the third party system. The third party system is going to verify whatever the phone number is entered in the account, is that a valid or not. So whatever the response we receive it, that response we are going to update it onto the account. This response we are going to update onto the account. So this is entire the use case, the scenario. So we are going to implement right now in the integration. This is the scenario which I'm going to implement. Now that means here, so from the Salesforce, I'm going to send a request to the veriPhone third-party system, and veriPhone is going to verify whether the data is correct or not. Now, based on that, it is going to send us the response. From the Salesforce, I'm going to send the request. So here it is the request. I'm going to send the request to the veriPhone, and then based on that, whatever the veriPhone is entering the data, based on that, we are receiving the response back to the Salesforce. I'm receiving the response back to the Salesforce. From the client, I'm sending a request to the server. Server is going to validate. It is going to validate the details and send the response back to us. Now, in that scenario, the first step which we need to do is we need to create an account into the veriPhone. We need to create an account onto the veriPhone. So let's go ahead and create an account. Now, in order to create an account, so we have it. If you open this link, so it is called as a veriphone.io. Now here click on a sign up free. Sign up free. So once you click on a sign up free, now you need to provide a certain details here. That means if you are creating it first time, for example, I'm creating it for the first time right now. So it is going on. It will take some time. Okay. So here it is saying that sign up with the Google. So I'm going to sign up with the Google. So let's take a Samskar ID @gmail.com. There is a verification email sent to our inbox. So let's go ahead and check that. So in Samskar ID, I should be receiving an email. So there is an email which I have received here from the veriPhone. So following link is to verify the email address. So just click on this email address so that it is going to, your email has been verified, continue. Now we have landed onto the page. Now here we have a different plans in the veriPhone. So this third party system has a different plans. Now there is a $79 for the 250,000 verifications per month. If it is a 1 million, so if you have a huge data and all the data you wanted to cross verify the veriPhone, so which is a 1 million for verifications per month. If it is a 5,000 verification that you wanted to do, 5,000 phone number validations you have to do. So could be anywhere in the country, could be a Dubai, could be a India, or could be a US, anything that works with the veriPhone. So 5,000 verification per month, it is a $6.99. If it is a 50,000 verifications per month, then it is a $29. If it is a 1 million, it is $199. If it is a 250,000, it will take $79. So this is the amount. But right now, what we are going to go for it, we are going to go for, there is a free version which is available. Free version which is available. Right now, we are going with the free version because at least hardly will do 1 or 2 phone number verifications. Now, so this is we have created the account in the veriPhone. So the first step is we have created the account into the veriPhone. Once we create the account into the veriPhone, what is the next step that I need to do? So any integration, if you wanted to do the integration, any system, could be a veriPhone or could be a different system or could be any system, could be a .NET or could be a Java, whatever it might be. What are the steps to implement the integration? The first thing is that we need to have an account in the third party system. We need to have an account in the third party system, or else somebody should provide us the credentials of their credentials on the system, their credentials in the system. Now here I have created the veriPhone account. Then the next step is I'm going to generate a API key. So any system, we need to generate a API key. So same thing here also, we will be generating the API key. So in order to generate a API key, now here we have a settings. In the settings, now as soon as my account is created, there is a API key which is generated. Now let's copy this. Right now, let's keep it this way. Now in the meantime, what we will do? In real time, whenever we are implementing an integration with any third-party system, the first thing is that we need to understand how it is going to accept the veriPhone, right? So they will be having some documentation. So here also we have a documentation which is called veriphone.io, veriphone.io API documentation. So for every which are the application that we wanted to do the integration, they should be having the documentation. The first step is that we need to go through the documentation very clearly to understand how it is going to interact with other system, what are the things that we need to send it from the other system to this veriPhone, and how it is going to respond it. So it says that authentication. I need to do the authentication. In this authentication, it says that I need to call this API. So the API request with a valid API key, right? So this is the valid API key. Now here I need to pass the key. Now in case if I receive any error, whoever is calling this application, they will, if there are any error, so either they will receive a 400 error, which is nothing but a bad request, right? So which is not valid. 401, which is nothing but it will return the unauthorized. It will return unauthorized. That means the key or a authentication or a API key is incorrect. 402 means the payment required. So if you have to pay, so if you have purchased something, if you have purchased here veriPhone for a $79 or a $6.99, if you have purchased, if it is that is expired, then in that case, or you have crossed your free version limit, then what it will do is it will try to give you the payment required. So that means 402 error it will give you. 403 in case if the access is not granted or there is a permission issues are there, in that case we will receive the 403. 500 is in case your internet server or this veriPhone server is down, then we will receive a 500. So these are the errors we will receive it. And then in case if you wanted to verify, so this is the end point for the verify. We have a method, get method and the post method. And what are the input parameters? We need to pass a key, which is a authentication key, and we need to pass the phone number. So these two are mandatory: key, phone number, and a default country. In case if you wanted to have a default country, US or a Dubai or a India, anything, if you wanted to have a default country, then mention the default country. And the output, what we will receive it, output we will receive the status, whether it is a success, that means it is a valid phone number, then it will give the success. If it is an invalid phone number, then it will give the error. Now here, the next one is phone number. So it is going to give us the output, the phone number provided as the input. What are the input that we have provided the phone number? The same thing we will return. Now phone valid is the one actual information that we are going to get it. If it is a true, that means it is a valid number. If it is a true, then we are going to get a valid number. Now in case if it is not valid, then it is going to give us the false. Now phone type is the phone number. Whatever the phone number type is there, whether it is a fixed line, mobile, unknown, fixed line, or a mobile, toll free, whatever it is, then it is going to give us that. Phone region is country region. And the country, it is going to give us which country it is related to. The country code also it will give us. Country prefix also it is give us. And international number. If there is any international number, it will give us the kind of plus 971 or a plus 49, kind of that it will give. And the local number, this is a local number, and this is a E164. This phone number is standard E164 format. This is a substandard as per the veriPhone. This is the standard E164 format that will give us. So that is the standard one. And the next one is a carrier. So basically, when you send this request, you will receive this kind of a response. Request is this one, and the response you will receive this. Response you will receive this. Now this is entire documentation for the veriPhone. So anytime if you are implementing a integration, the first thing is that you need to review or you need to go through the documentation, because documentation is very important. We should know what is the request that should be sent and what is the response we will be receiving it. Everything we should be knowing it. So this is the documentation for the veriPhone. Right. So now here I have a API key which is already generated. Now this is done from the third-party system. Once I have the API key, then I can say that, okay, this is completed from the API system. Now from the Salesforce, if I wanted to do, now the third-party side, I have completed all the setup. Third-party side, I have completed all the setup. Now the next thing which we need to do is on the account. On the account, I have a phone number. And whenever the validation is happening on this phone, I will be storing the response in another field. So that means I will be creating the one more field which is called as a phone valid. I'll be creating one more field which is called as a phone valid. So click on this new. Now usually the response will be the response which I receive, either it is a phone valid, either I'll receive a true or a false. That means I'll receive the Boolean value. Phone valid is, it is either true or either false. Now here I'm going to create a one checkbox which is a phone valid. As it is a Boolean value that we are receiving it either true or false. So that's the reason I'm creating the data type with the checkbox. Let's say that valid phone. Valid phone. Now click on the next button. And then click on next. And then let's save it. Now I have created the new field which is called as a validate phone number. Let's go to the page layout. What is this page layout? Let's go to the edit page. And let's see what is the page layout is assigned to this account. Right, so this is the page. Now let's click on this page. Now we have a customer account layout. So let's see on the customer account layout, do we have a field that is added or not? Now here, let's say I have created the field valid phone. So valid phone, I'll place it onto the below the phone number and then click on save. Now I have created the phone number. I have placed the valid phone checkbox below the phone number. Now that is the first step. Now, from the Salesforce side, we have created the new field on the account to store the result. Now, the next step is I'm going to implement the Apex to invoke the veriPhone API. Right now, I have it as soon as account is created. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to implement the Apex to invoke the third-party application, and we will be sending the phone number to third-party application, and this third-party application is going to validate whether it is a correct or a wrong number, whether it is a correct number or a wrong number or a wrong phone number. It is going to give us the information. Now let's go ahead and implement in Apex. Now let's close all of this. File new Apex class. Now I'm going to validate account phone API. Validate account phone API. So this is our API. Now the first thing what I'm going to do is, if you see the responses, I'm receiving the response status, phone valid, phone type, phone region, country code. So these are the data which I'm receiving it. So that means whenever I receive a response, whenever I receive a response, I need to store this response into one object. I need to store this response in one object. And from that object, I wanted to take only the value which is called as a phone valid. Now this object, in order to store this object, I need not to create any object in Salesforce. What I can do is, because that is only for the developers we need the data or an object or a fields which I need to store this information only for the development purpose. We do not need it for the user interface. So in that case, what I'll do is I'll create a wrapper object. So wrapper, I'll create it. So here wrapper public class. Let's say that what are the response we are receiving it, phone response, and this response I'm going to take what are the data we have. So first one is a status. So public string, it is a string, it is storing the string status. Similarly, public. What else we have? Phone number and the phone valid. Phone valid is a boolean. Now I need to take this all information. And next one is a boolean public boolean phone valid public string public string. Then I'm going to take the next one, which is a phone type. Phone type. Next one is a public string phone region, and then after that we have a country. Phone region, then we have a country, right? And then we have country code. Country code is also a string, right? Country prefix is also a string. And then I'm going to add an integration number. Integration number is also a string. And local number is also a string. And then next we have a E164. This is a default format. So that is also string. And the last one, which we have a carrier. Carrier is also, that is also string. Now let's take this public string. Now I'm going to add it for everyone. Fine. So these are the wrapper class. So whenever I get a response, I'll be storing into the phone response. I'll be storing the data into the phone response. Now the next thing is I need to, from the Apex class, we need to invoke this API. So in order to invoke the API, I'll be creating the public static void. Let's say I'm going to invoke veriPhone API. Right, so this is the method which I need. So this method is going to invoke the API, invoke this API. Now, whenever I'm invoking the API, it is expecting the input parameter. It is expecting the input parameter, which is a phone. Input parameter, phone is expecting. That means somebody has to pass the phone to this, right? So this is the Apex class, either trigger or a flow, because as soon as the account is created, or if I click on some button, then only it should be passing the phone. So that means I'll be passing here string, let's say phone number or mobile number. Let's check phone number. Phone number. Now, in order to invoke, the first thing which I need is API key. The first thing which I need API key, and then I need to get the endpoint. What is the endpoint of the third-party system? And then I need to invoke I need to implement or initialize the HTTP response or request. This is what we have discussed already. HTTP response, HTTP response. So these three things which I need to do. So for the API key, we have a string API key. Let's get the API key from the third-party system. Now here I have a setting inside the setting and copy this and I'll paste it here. Instead of hard coding, what you can do, you can also use the custom label. In the custom label, you can specify this API key and call the custom label here. That is the API key. The next one is endpoint. Now for endpoint, let's say that here string veriPhone endpoint equal to now what is my endpoint? Now let's go to the documentation. Now whatever the request that I send it, right? So basically this is my endpoint. This is my endpoint. Now here, whatever the phone number is there, right? Instead of adding here phone number, what I'll do is I'm going to add this phone number to this URL, and then I'm going to add the key. So whatever the key is available, so that key is plus API key. So this is my endpoint, api.veriphone.io v2 and verify phone equal to. So my endpoint is, this is the one, this is my endpoint. Inside that I have a version to verify I need to pass the phone number and then I need to pass the key. Whatever the key is there, I need to pass that key. So that is endpoint. Now, instead of hard coding it here, you can do it from the custom label, right? Or else you can use it. Yeah, custom label, you can use it and place here instead of hard coding here. And the next one is HTTP. We need to initialize the HTTP. We need to initialize the request. And in the request, we need to do some methods we need to implement it. So let's see the first HTTP. Let's initialize HTTP h equal to new HTTP. The next one is a HTTP request. In the HTTP request, I'm going to specify HTTP request equal to new HTTP request. This is the initialization of the request. Now, whenever we are requesting it, that means I'm sending the information to the endpoint. So whenever we are requesting it, the first thing is a couple of things which we need to set. Now, what are the things which we need to initialize while requesting it? I need to set the endpoint, set endpoint into the request. And what is the method that we are calling it? What is the method that we are calling it? In case if you wanted to add a timeout, you can add a time. So here, let's say request dot set endpoint. Now my endpoint is, this is veriPhone endpoint. And then request dot set method. Method we are going to do is get. We'll send a response, we'll send a request, and we will receive the response. We will receive the response. Now here I'm going to send the details. So once I done this, then I can send the details to the, that means I can send a request to the third-party system. In order to do that, so what we can do is here h dot send the request. Whatever the request is there, send the request. And whatever the outcome we are receiving it, that outcome we have to store it into the HTTP response equal to RES. We need to store it into this. We need to store the data into this. Now, what are the response we are receiving it? Whatever the response we are receiving it, we receive in the JSON format. We receive in the JSON format. How can I say? Because here it says that JSON response. It is JSON response. Now I'm receiving the JSON response. Once I receive the JSON response, I need to store it into this wrapper object. I need to store it into the wrapper object. So in order to store this into the wrapper object, first of all, I need to do the deserialize of this response. I need to do the deserialize of this response. In order to do the deserialization, what I'll do JSON dot. So we have a method called deserialize. Inside the deserialize, now whatever the response dot get body, and then with what is the system dot apex type. Now here the system dot apex type is whatever this phone response is there, wrapper class. So that class name. So this is, I'm going to deserializing it. Once I deserialize, then what I need to do, I wanted to store this information here. That means phone response pre-res equal to, convert this into the phone response and store it. Convert that into the phone response and store it. Class, let's say. Now here, done. So this error is should be gone. Now let's save this. Now this is the invoking it. Now whatever the response is there, I need to return the response to either trigger or either flows, lightning flows. So here I'm going to return res. Return pre-res. So I need to change the method. Instead of void, I need to specify the static. Now done. Right. So this is the Apex class implementation. So only thing which we have done is wrapper class. And when we are invoking it, I'm passing the API, veriPhone, and then this everything is a HTTP request and the response. Now that is the implementing the Apex class. Once we implement the Apex class, before testing the Apex class, we need to put it into the remote site settings. I need to add. That means I need to whitelist this URL. I need to whitelist this URL. Let's copy this. Let's go to the setup. Click on this remote site settings. Now here click on the new remote site settings. Let's say here this is the veriPhone. Right, so let's click on save. Now right now remote site setting is done. Now I can test this class right now. How can I test it? Let's test it before going to the trigger or lightning flows. I wanted to test it from the developer, this anonymous window. From the anonymous window, I wanted to test it. So here I'm going to specify whatever this validate account API dot, it is returning the phone response. Phone response is the class. So phone response equal to phone response equal to. Now what are the method is there? Now I have a method which is a invoke API. So class name dot method, and in this method I need to pass the phone number. I need to pass the phone number. Let's say here plus 971. Now let's take an India number plus 91. Right, so this is the number I'm passing it. Now click on this. Now let's say what are the response I'm receiving it. For this I need to specify the variable. Now here I'm going to return the value system dot debug response is plus what are the P that we are receiving it, the P number. Now, if I try to execute this, what I'm doing here, for whatever the validate account API dot this invoke veriPhone API is, this is going to execute it. Whenever this is going to execute it, I'm going to get the response in the phone response. So that data I'm storing into the phone response. This is the phone response, and then I'm printing the data. Highlight this, execute the highlighted one. Illegal. Now I need to specify this phone number in the string. Now highlight this, click on the execute highlighted. Now this is the response. Here we have received the response. Now copy this response. Now let's go to the Notepad++. Now we have received the response. Carry for carrier Airtel, country is India, country code is IN, country prefix is N1. This is a standard format, international number is +91, and the local number is, this is the local number, and the phone number is, this is the one, phone region is India, phone type is mobile, phone validate is true, and the status is success. Whatever the status is there, it is success. Now this is how the data is received. In case if I enter incorrect number, then it is going to give me the invalid information. Let's say I'm going to specify here +971 and 0760789. So this is the number. Let's click on execute the highlighted one. Now this is the response which I have received. Phone valid is false. This is not valid number. This is not the valid number. Now I'm going to copy that. No. It did not find a carrier, which is which type of phone it is, which type of SIM it did not find. Country did not find. Country code is null. Country prefix is null. So this is the format of the standard format of the phone number. International number is this one. Local number is this. Phone number is this is the one. Phone region is nothing is there because we could not able to find that. Phone type is unknown. Phone valid is false. Status is success. This status success is whether we have able to receive the response successfully or not. If it is a false, most of my data is blank. If it is a right phone number, then I'll be having the correct information in the all the value. Right? So this is from the Apex which we have implemented. From the Apex we have implemented. Now this is the invoke. Now what I'm going to do next step is I'm going to create a lightning flow. I'm going to create a lightning flow. So basically what I'm going to do is on the account object, I have it, this is the account object. On the account object, I'll create a button. Let's say validate phone. Validate phone. Validate phone is the button which I'm going to create it. When user click on this button, back end of this button, we will be implementing the lightning flow. In this lightning flow, we are going to from the lightning flow, what I'm going to do is from the lightning flow, I'm going to call the Apex. From the lightning flow, I'm going to call the Apex. So basically this lightning flow will get the data of the account. Whatever the data is there, account data will be captured here and it will send only the phone number to the Apex. When it is calling only the phone number, it is going to send it to the Apex. Now, what are the Apex getting executed? Whatever the response is there, it will return the response back to the lightning flow. From the lightning flow, whatever the response we have received from the Apex, now that data we will be updating on the account, which is where the field is called validate phone. So we have a checkbox here, validate phone. So this validate phone checkbox will be getting updated from the lightning flow. If it is a valid, then it is going to check this. If it is a not valid, then it will be a false. Now this is what we are going to do it. Now in the lightning flow, whenever we are calling from the lightning flow to Apex, so on the Apex, we need to have the method should be have an annotation that it says @invokable method. We need to specify this @invokable method. Inside that we have a label is the one attribute. Another attribute is the label is one attribute and the another attribute is description. Another attribute is description. Now I have these two data. Now whenever we are calling the lightning, Apex is called from the lightning flow. Above the method, we need to specify the annotation called @invokable method. We need to specify @invokable method. Now in that, we need to specify the label and the description so that lightning flow can call this method, right? So first what I'll be doing is first step I'll be implementing this invokable method. Whatever this invokable method is that I'm going to implement that invokable method. So let's go to the Salesforce now. I'll do one thing. I'll create another Apex class. Let's say that this is the phone verification. Phone verification. Right, click on OK. Now here I'm going to implement a method which is called as a public static void validate phone. Validate phone, and then here I'm going to inside this I'm going to call this method this, right? So whatever this class is there, I'm going to call that class. So what I'll do, whatever we have executed from the anonymous window, I'll be calling it from here. But only the difference that I have here is instead of hard coding the phone number, we will be passing the phone number. String phone number. So let's say P number. Now whatever this P number is there, I'm going to pass here. I'm going to pass the P number. Now, so this method, I'll call it from the lightning flow. So what I do at the rate invokable method. Now inside that we have a two parameters or two fields. Label, one is a label and the second one is a description. Second one is description. Now label equal to, let's say this is verify, let's say validate phone number, that is the label, and the description is API call or let's say invoke API to validate the phone number. No, this is invokable method. Now let me save this. Now it is giving the error because at the rate invokable, right? And this is right. Now whenever we are writing the invokable, so first of all, the invokable method should not have a void. So there should be some return value. Now in this case, I'm going to return P dot. I'm going to return P dot, whatever the phone valid. So because that is the one which is going to give us the information. I'm going to return the boolean. And the next thing is that it is reduced. Next thing is that whenever we are implementing the invokable method, it does not accept the parameter which is a string. It always accept parameter which is a list of a string, which is always accept list of a string. If it is a list of a string, then I'll be passing it here, the first record. Whatever the first record is there, we will be receiving the first record. Right, so public static boolean, validate the phone number, list of the string P number, validate API. Now there should not be any comma here, label and the description. One error we have. Invokable method do not support the return type boolean. It does not support the return type Boolean. So because it does not accept the single data, so it has to be always list of the Boolean. So what I'm going to do is return new list of Boolean. And then I'm going to add this, whatever the phone validation. The output of this is that I'm going to add that into the list. Invokable methods always accept the list parameter is a list and the return type is also a list. Because from the flow, we execute the records as a bunch. In flow, always the records gets executed as a list. It does not execute for a single record. It's like a list. If you implement a list, flow is always works for a list. Whenever if we wanted to implement a lightning flow for single record, by default, it will take it as a list. Now this is the invocable method. I'm done with the invocable method. Now that is the first step. And in the second step, I'm going to implement a lightning flow. Now here, the lightning flow which I'm going to implement. Now I'm going to take the lightning flow, which is a screen flow, Now in this screen flow, couple of things which I needed. The first thing is which I need. The first step 1 in the screen flow. I need to get all the records, get the records of the account. Whatever the current record is there, get the current record data. Get the current record data. That is a step 1. And once I have the current record data, step 2, I need to pass the phone number. I need to pass the account phone number to Apex class. I need to pass it to the Apex class. Now, step 3, whatever the Apex class return it, whatever the return value that I'm going to get it here, that return value, I'm going to store the return value, in one variable in the flow. I'm going to store it into the flow. Now, step 4, if the return value is, if the return value is equal to true, then we are going to update. Here. Step 4.1, update the account dot valid phone to true, and then update the account valid phone ID to the true, and then step 4.2, then I'm going to display the success message on the screen. This is when I have a value is true. For example, step 5, if return value is false. If the return value is false, then we are going to step 5.1, update account dot valid phone equal to false. I need to update the valid phone to the false, and then step 5.2, and show the error message on the screen. Now this is what the steps which I am going to implement in the lightning flow. So total 5 steps which we are going to implement it. So let's go ahead and implement. Now inside this, let's say lightning flows. Flow. So click on this flows. Let's click on a new flow. We are going to implement a flow which is a screen flow. So I'll select the screen flow. You can choose the automation flow or you can choose the record triggered flow. It is up to you. But right now, because I wanted to show the message on the screen, so that's the reason I'm going with the screen flow. You can go with auto launch, you can go with the record triggered flow also. So right now we are going with the screen flow. Now on the screen flow, we are going to get the records. So choose here, get records. Now whenever we are getting the records, basically I wanted to get the data of the current record. Whatever the current record is there, that current data I wanted to capture. The current data I wanted to capture. Now here, let's say that get current account record. Object account. Now here I need to match the ID. Account ID equals to, I'm going to create a new resource because I need to capture the ID of this. I need to capture the ID of record ID. Now, in order to capture this, I'll create a new resource which is called variable, and the API name is record ID. API name is record ID, and then data type is text. And this is available for input. If you have this input, then only your flow is getting executed. Otherwise, your flow will not be executed. So that's the reason available for input. Click on done. Now ID equal to this record ID. That means whichever the record I'm in, so that particular ID we need to provide it. That particular ID we have to provide it so that it will try to get the data of that particular record. Now click on done. Now we are done with getting the records. So by default, I have taken only the first records here because right now we are checking with only first record and then automatically store all the fields. I'm going to store all the fields, click on done. Now once this is done, the next step is I'm going to call. So this is completed. The first one is completed and the second one is I'm going to pass the account.phone to the Apex class. That means I need to call the Apex class. Click on this action. In the action, let's choose the type. And we want Apex action. In the Apex action, I have a validate phone number. I have a validate phone number. Click on this validate phone number. And let's specify the label. Whatever the labels are there, let's specify it here. Now invoke phone verification. Let's say invoke API. Invoke API. And you can specify the description. Whatever the description is there, you can specify. Now, in order to execute this Apex class, I need to pass the input value, which is a P number, So this is the P number which I need to pass it. Now pass this P number. From where will I be passing it? I have a get accounts. From the get account, we have a phone. So I'll be passing the phone. And then advanced. Manually assign the values. If you want to manually assign the values, for example, let's say that I wanted to assign the manually. So you can specify I wanted to assign manually so that whatever the output is there, this output I'm going to store it into the. Now the second one is I am passing the variable to the Apex. Now then I need to store whatever the output is there. I need to store that particular data into the one variable. In order to store that, I have clicked on here, manually assign to the variable. Now here I need to create another resource. I'll create another resource that is a variable. Let's say that this is a API output, API output or API result. API result, I'm storing it, and the data type is Boolean. This is only for output. Now click on done. Now this is let the flow decide it. Always starts. This is as it is. I'm keeping it. I'm not changing anything. Now click on done. So get current account is done. Passing the account phone number is done. The next one is storing the return value in one variable is done. The next step is if return value is true, if the return value. So first I need to implement step 4 and step 5. Step 1 we will do it later. So here this is a condition. We will add a condition decision. We will add a decision. So let's say that validate phone number. Validate phone number. Now here, let's say this is valid phone number. This is valid phone number. Right, and the resource is whatever the output which we are getting it, which is a API result. If the API result equal to, if it is equal to true, then that means it is a valid. And another one which we are going to add it here, that is a default outcome. Let's add another one, invalid phone number. Invalid phone number. When it will be invalid phone number? Whenever I receive the response which is a false. So what are the API result is there? If this API result is false, that means it is a invalid. Click on that. Valid phone number, invalid phone number, default outcome. Default outcome. Now if it is a valid phone number. Now if it is a valid, then I need to update the valid phone checkbox into the account. I need to update that. So let's click on this plus button. Let's say assignment. And let's say this is update phone, update checkbox account. Now the variable which I wanted to update is in the get current account. Now I have an option called valid phone equals to, this is for the true. So this is when it is a valid, I'm going to update the data, update the checkbox on account. Let me edit this, update valid, update true on checkbox, click on done. Now the other side, this one is, I wanted to create an assignment. Now let's say here assignment update false on checkbox. Variable, what are the get record is there? For that get record, valid phone number equal to false. Click on done. So for invalid, we are updating the false there. If it is a valid, we are updating the true. So this is done. The next step is now I'm going to update the account. Let's say here I'm going to update. You can combine both of them or you can have a different one. So for everybody to understand, I'm implementing the different one. Let's say I'm updating the record. Let's say this is update valid data. I'm going to update valid data. What is the data I'm going to update? Get records. Get records, we are going to update, click on that. Same thing, I'm going to copy the element and here it is, I'm going to paste the element. Let's change the value here, invalid. Valid data. Let's remove this. Click on done. And the next one is if it is a success, I'm going to show the screen success message. So on this success message, let's say I'm going to display the label or a text. Display text. I'm going to drag it the display text. Now here I'm going to display whatever the phone number is there. If the phone number, now let's say it is a valid number. Phone number is valid number. Now here I'm going to specify which phone number is a valid. For that, I'll click on insert. Now here I'm going to get account and whatever the phone number is there, I'm going to take the phone number. This is a valid. Let's click on a bold and I'm going to display in the color. Let's say I'm going to display in the blue color. Let's click on done. And the API name of this valid number. Valid number. This is the API name, so space is not required. This color is not good. Let me change to something else. Click on done. Yeah, this is fine. Now flow label. Let's get the flow label. This is a success message. This is success message and click on done. Now the screen flow is created. Let's copy this element and click on this, paste the element here. Now in this case, I'm going to modify, edit. This is not the success message. This is the error message. Error message. Let's remove the API name. Done. So here the phone number is not valid number. Is not valid number. It is not valid number, and I'm going to display this text in the red. Click on done. Let's click on done. If it is a default, I'm going to display the copy this element. Let's click on this default. Paste the element. Let's click on this. Let's say edit this. This is the default message. Remove this default message. And here say it's a this is default message. I'm going to display this in the color. Let's click on done. Now let's click on done. Now this is the entire lightning flow. This is entire lightning flow. Now what I'll be doing is before activating it, let me test this flow. Let me test the flow. Now before that I need to create a save. Save, let's say this is a validate phone on account. Validate phone on account. Now click on save. Now before activating it, what I will do is I'll click on debug. Now before clicking on debug, do I have a phone number here? Let's say 9162460161. Now click on save. Now this number I'm going to give. I clicked on the debug, it is asking the record ID. So this is the record ID, click on run. Now it is saying that phone number is valid. And then it is updated the record. The checkbox is true. Now let me check. Click on this. Refresh. It is validated. Now, for example, if I say here 97150670789, now click on save. Now I'm going to re-execute that. Now run again. Now it will say that phone number is not valid. Before it was a checkbox is true. Now let's click on this, refresh. Now it should be false. Now it is false. Now flow is working properly fine. So let's activate it. Now I have a flow active. Let's go to the, what we will do is on the account object, we will create a quick action. Now let's go to the buttons links. Let's say new action. I'm going to select the flow and the flow name is validate phone on account and the label is validate phone. Click on this save. Now once the button action is created, I'll go back to the object and then I'll click on the page layout. In the page layout, customer account layout is the page layout for this. So let's click on the customer page layout and let's go to the mobile lightning quick action. And the one which we have created is validate phone, which I'm going to specify at the beginning. Click on save. Now on the, let's refresh. Let me try in incognito. If it doesn't work, okay, let me try in incognito. It takes some time. So let me open in incognito. Let's go to the account and let's open up this record. I still did not add it. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll click on edit page. Now here I'm going to add, instead of a quick contact, let's say I'm going to add another action which is called validate phone contact. Save. Activation. It's already enabled. Now let's move back. Now let's see the refresh button. Now I can see the validate. So right now the phone number is something incorrect. It's not a valid number. So click on a validate. Now it says that phone number is not valid number. Let's click on a finish. Now if I edit this 91 2460 161, click on a save. I'm going to click on this validate phone number. It's not a valid. Okay, it's not a valid. 61. Click on save. Now click on the validate number. It says that phone number is valid number. So what is happening here overall is from the account, I have implemented the button. When I click on the button, lightning flow is calling. From the lightning flow, we are calling the Apex. From the Apex, we are calling the API. The third party, we are invoking the API. So whenever the Apex is sending the request, it is sending the phone number as a request. So this veriPhone API, veriPhone, the third party, what are the third party is there? So this third party is verifying the what are the phone number is there, it is verifying the data and sending the response back to the Apex, and the what are the response it is received in the Apex, it is going to modify or modify the result, and then it will send it to the Lightning, then Lightning will send it to the account, and so that we can see the whatever the message is there, that message I can see, and based on that whatever the output is there, this checkbox is reflected or updated. So that is the overall flow. That's all for today. So in case if you wanted to see any referrals, these are the referrals, we'll provide it in the PPT.